Yeah, welcome to Art's Place. We've got a great show. My co-host Lloyd Mendenhall is back in the saddle. Welcome back,
Hey,
Mel or Lloyd. Oh God,
we were just talking of
ah,
it.
God,
Oh,
I can't believe I did
no,
that.
that happens. Believe it or not, it happens more than you think. But yeah, I'm glad to be back, Art. I confess, I told you I had a family thing to do last week. It was my son, and he took me to see the Star Wars movie, which was
Awesome,
just unbelievably good. I was real happy with it. So, but
wonderful.
glad to be back here, though. I understand I missed a really good guest last week.
Yes, you did. Missy Ward was the guest. She's a firecracker. Uh, she's awesome. Hopefully, she could defeat the incumbent in the primary. Turns out the guy he's running against, or she's running against, is an RMGO uh, slacker.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I
anyway,
wish her
before,
best of luck.
yeah, that's going to be a tough nut to crack. It's always tough to go up against an incumbent, but there was a race back in Virginia back. When was that? 2014, I think it was, when David Bratt beat Eric Cantor, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
guy outspent him 10-1, and he
Right.
won the primary.
Rodney wants to know what is an RMGO.
Oh, okay. RMGO is Rocky Mountain Gun Owners.
Oh yeah, that's that group that was supposed to be a conservative group and turns out to be a uh
Well, they keep
yeah.
putting up ultra conservative candidates in districts that won't support a candidate like that, and
Oh
some of
okay.
the candidates are just plain lunatics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get into the show, we were talking with Greg Cooner a little before the show. Uh, there's a volcano erupting in the Philippines, not far from where his wife's family lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's spewing ash all over the place. Oh, and I want to say hi to Mitch before we get going.
And
And
Rodney.
uh,
Yeah. Thanks, Rodney, for being here.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video from a fellow YouTuber, and he's a friend of mine, and I've had him on my drone show. His name is James Tanner, and his
Yeah.
channel is My PI Dreams. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the video he took with his drone. So
Okay.
let's see if I could do it right. Share the screen. No, that's not one. Your eggs are ready.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so here's one, and you can see that screen.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start her up. And this is from his property there in Lipa City, and you're looking towards the volcanic plume, and
Okay.
he's
Is it
using a Phantom 4 Pro. I don't think it's a version 2.
right?
The nice thing about the Phantom 4 is you can really get a lot of distance with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's Greg right there. 19.5 kilometers. What is that in real measurements? Let's see.
And there's the lake. That's Lake Taal. and the volcano is in the middle of the lake. And believe it or not, inside that island there is another lake.
Okay, that's for those of us that use real measurements. Yes, Greg Gaelic. That's 12.1164 miles that his family's. That in terms of volcanoes is pretty doggone close.
Yeah. And he's coming into the volcano from the east.
Right.
And it looks like most of the ash is going towards the north if you look to the right of the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
And Manila is northwest of
Well, see, this is so deceptive because I always assumed that the volcano was the big mountain over there, but
no, that's one of several mountains.
Okay. Wow. Of
And
course,
we're
this is probably uphill,
okay. Let's.
All right. Now, if you can just figure out how there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning how to do this.
Yeah, you're probably better at StreamYards than I am because I've never used it. I've played around with it a little bit, but never used it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we got Drone Life RC here.
Yeah, and Greg is here. Welcome,
Greg.
welcome.
Yeah. So, what's on the schedule for today? This kind of
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about we killed an Iranian general. And then Iran accidentally shoots down a civilian airliner just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And there's videos out there you could see.
Oh
the
yeah.
missile taking off and tracking, and then boom.
Well, that's the reason they had to come clean because the videos were out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And from what I hear, there were a lot of Canadians on that flight and Ukrainians too.
There was, I think, 17 Ukrainians, and I think there was like 40 Canadians.
Wow.
There's a lot of Canadians on there. Yeah, that was. Well, I look at it from this point of view. The reason their missile attacks weren't as deadly as they should have been was it was because they had some failures. Obviously, we had a 4-hour warning. Okay, so we were able to get our personnel out of there.
Right.
And then, as I said, they had some failures, and then the next thing after that, they shoot down their own plane. That is, I think, the direct result of us killing the general. Not the fact that they're lobbing stuff at us, but the fact that they were no more effective because the Ayatollah was directing things in, and obviously, he doesn't have the personnel that are quite as sharp as his general was that we took out.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
And Greg and I had a nice discussion about that last night. And but what were you going to say about it, Art? Because this is your show, so I'm going to kind of let you actually talk about it.
From what I heard, that the reasons those missiles failed is they were old Scud missiles that aren't as sophisticated. They're more like the old German V2 missiles where they just launch them, they give it coordinates. This is where to go, and they didn't have the sophisticated guidance that for those missiles. And they're the same missiles that Saddam Hussein used against us during the Iraqi war, the beginnings of the Iraqi war. And
okay,
yeah. So,
well, and Drone Life RC brings up something, and he's probably pretty correct in that. They short shot on purpose because they, they had to do something. We
Yeah.
took out their general. They had to come back, but they didn't want it to be so bad that,
That would escalate
escalate into, because they had to, whoever's in charge now
yeah.
has to they have to, save face,
Right.
because as anybody can see right now, after they shot down their own aircraft by accident, they've got so many protests. They're calling for the Ayatollah to step down. And last time, it's, we're talking, and that reminds me of something else I want to talk about in a minute.
Okay.
I know I've hijacked your show again. I apologize, but this was some stuff I've been watching the last 2 days, and Greg and I talked about it, and he did bring up a good point. He's looking at it from the worldview, from outside of the how we as Americans feel and what we feel needed to be done. We feel it needed to be done. Okay, this guy was a bad actor. He was God. I hate sound, but anyways, he was a bad person. Okay, he was the leader of so many attacks on our people, and he needed to be taken out. But it was, from the world point of view, they see it as an escalation of the fight between ourselves and Iran.
Right.
And that is true. But, and so I was kind of, he kind of we kind of went over the scenarios. And one of the things he said, and I can't say that I disagree with him, if the president would come out and said that he went over the discussion with his advisors, he had a short window of opportunity where he had to make a decision.
Right.
But if his advisor said, yes, 100%, go for it, then they wouldn't think that he's the, a lone trigger man.
Right.
And I'm sure that that's the case, but, like in Greg's point of view, or the world point of view, and I'm only going from their side, not that we as Americans have ever really cared about what the world thought about us,
Yeah.
And I'm just talking politically now, and as a country, we don't care what others think of us as long as we get the job done. But don't you think the USA controls what you see? Yeah. I think the press controls what we see, and we all know that the press is the right arm of the liberal machine.
Yep.
So that's here in the United States.
Arm of the Democrat Party.
Do what?
The propaganda arm.
The propaganda arm. Yeah. They're the they're what the Russians had part of their propaganda machine. Well, Russia, the Soviet Union fell apart, so they all came here. Went to work for our news agency.
Yeah.
What is that? Stravna. Yeah. But I can never remember how to say that name, but I knew you'd know it. So, but anyways, that was a point that Greg brought up, and I think in the end, it's he did do that. He didn't just willy-nilly say, all right, everybody go out there and blow somebody up. And I also pointed out to Greg that he wasn't the only target. He wasn't the only person. We didn't just drop a bomb for the sake, he was inside of a war zone, and I guess they expect him to put warnings on the war that, war may be hazardous to your health. You go in a war zone, you could be collateral damage. In this case, he was the target, but there were a few others there. We missed a couple, but
yeah.
Google search not available in Iran. Yeah,
that's right.
But it's so. Anyways, yeah, I think that would probably make some of the people out in the rest of the world happy. But But now they shot down their own aircraft, and now it's come back to bite them in the butt, and they're calling for the Ayatollah to step down.
Mm-hmm.
And the message is getting out there, and hopefully, this will. Let's see, women who only recently started driving to Saudi Arabia. We've been
Yeah.
allies with them for years. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the greatest peacemaker in the Middle East just passed away. He's the longest running. It wasn't. It was the Sheikh of Oman.
Oh, yeah.
Just passed. Hang on.
Okay. And while Lloyd is taking care of that, I also want to talk about the GoFundMe for his dog Ranger. And
Yeah,
last I just looked, it said
let me
1,000.
step away for a minute,
Okay.
and I need to go take care of Judy. She just called me, so I'll be right back.
All
And
right.
thank you for bringing up Ranger too.
All right. So we'll put that there like that. While he's doing that, I am going to put in the chat, I'm going to put the link if you want to make a donation to help out Ranger. He's having surgery tomorrow, which is good news. And thanks to you guys out there, and including me, I've helped out as much as I could. Uh, you know, I mean, he's more than a pet. He's their service dog, and uh, you know, eh, we need to stick together. All of us YouTube people, we've got a great community out there. We help each other, and this is my way of paying it forward. A year ago, this time, you guys helped me out. I didn't ask for anything, and I got a great drone. I got a Mavic Air, which I still love it. It's a blast to fly. The weather has been just cold and windy here in the Denver metro area, so I haven't been really able to fly out there today. Played around with the RoboMaster a little bit, but we'll save that for next Saturday. So Carlos says the only reason I mention all these Middle Eastern countries have issues with their government. It doesn't justify what we all do all the time. We don't need to spread democracy around. Yes and no. It's because hey, welcome Steve. Welcome to the show. Carlos, you bring up a good point. The reason we're there is to make sure that the Straits of Hormuz stays open and that the supply of oil is able to get out to the markets, to countries that really depend on Middle Eastern oil, especially Europe and even China. They depend on that oil. United States, we don't need their oil because uh, we're self-sufficient here on oil. Any oil that we import comes from either Canada or Mexico. So, yeah, we used to get some of our oil from the Middle East, and now we become energy independent. Pissing off other countries. You know what, Carlos? I mean, nobody is ever going to be happy. It's just that we gotta. Right now, we're pulling out of the Middle East, and we're getting NATO to do more of the heavy lifting there. and a lot of this goes back to World War One. If you look at the history of World War One, you're going to see the Middle East was even involved in that war. They were part of the Central Powers. The Ottoman Empire was allied with Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and here mainly the British were trying to get the different tribes of the Middle East to help us out, fight against the Ottomans. And after World War One, when the Ottoman Empire went away, they uh, Great Britain, France, and a couple other countries, mainly Great Britain and France, they split up the Middle East into protectorates. You got a good point, and that's what made Donald Trump's trying to do. He's trying to get NATO to do more of the heavy lifting. And here is
Exactly.
Lloyd. Take it away.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what all of you talked about so far.
Carlos is talking about the Middle East and how we're mainly pissing off uh, those countries. And I was telling him that Donald Trump is trying to get NATO to do more of
Yeah,
the heavy
he's
lifting.
that is one of the things he's called out for. I just noticed you took. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, uh, yeah. Of course, he's been trying to get us to be independent on oil, and uh, yes, Carlos, you probably did get a history lesson from Art because he studies history. If we don't study history, we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes.
That's right.
You know, and that's been the way it's been since World War II. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've done the dirty work of the people in Europe that didn't want to do it themselves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well, you got to remember, Lloyd, that a lot of those countries were devastated by
that
the war, and they had to rebuild. So we, did the heavy lifting. It's called
yeah,
the Marshall Plan.
yeah, yeah.
To rebuild
Hmm.
Europe, and uh,
Well, and the thing is yeah, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in the Philippines, okay, but they never really made it to the continental United States. You know,
right.
they might have snuck a submarine out in the bay a little bit. You know, periscope, oops, wrong place, and they turned around and went back. You know,
Mhm.
Germany never made it here at all, and uh, yeah, and I want to go ahead and put that up there. And I want to discuss that comment real quick in a minute, but I'll get back to it. But we were not uh, physically attacked inside of our continent, you know,
Right.
so we didn't have the devastation. But you look at London, it was bombed. Look at France, it was devastated. Italy, Spain, all of those countries were just, you know, destroyed by the World War I and two.
Mhm.
And, you know, they hadn't bailed out of one before they were into two, you
Mhm.
know. And so, yeah. But now it's time for them to put on their big boy pants and start taking care of themselves.
Mhm.
Now, uh, as far as you don't hear Iranians shouting death to NATO, but death to America, there's a new movement inside of Iran that's just, it's been slowly progressing. And the death to America that you hear coming from that are from the either the paid protesters
Right.
or they're being forced to do that for video clips, for
Right.
their propaganda in Iran, because the mullahs and the ayatollahs run it there. But this it's the same. It's not the same generation, but it's the same place in the generation that happened 40 years ago. We had the young college students or the young people that were protesting the Shah of Iran. And now the people that have, their parents their parents or grandparents helped overthrow the Shah of Iran. Now the grandchildren are coming along and they're ready to overthrow the Ayatollah.
Mm-hmm.
They're wanting to go back to what their grandparents had.
Yeah.
And so when you hear Death to America coming from those places, a lot of them are the militant groups
Yeah.
that are being paid
Yeah.
by, such as the general. The general we just killed, that part of his job was to bring those people in and use them for whatever purpose he could.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
So, anyways,
And you
that's
hear
my
the
rant.
same things from the Palestinians. They say the
Yeah,
same thing about us, and those people are just they're props. They're either coerced or paid, most likely coerced into saying these things. And I
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
like to find out how much the population really thinks that way.
yeah. Well, there's a gentleman that I've met on several of the. Yeah, Mitch, I understand. Yeah. Uh, there's a gentleman that I and Judy's asked about him. I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but he's Jewish. He's Israeli, and he lives in the part of the settlement in Palestine, and he's got neighbors that are Palestinian. He knows at any moment somebody could walk up and set off a bomb, you know, and but he lives there because one is the cost of housing is so much cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
and but he says he works with his neighbors. He gets along with his neighbors just fine. It's the militant branch that is causing this. You know,
Yep.
and but he gets along with them, and but what a lot of people need to understand is, our main ally in uh, let's see if that's the
Our
case. They're going
main
to be taking.
ally is.
Yeah, our main ally over there is Israel. And we have to support that. I was at uh, I was in that part of the country during the fall of Cheyenne, the
Sure.
fall of the Shah of Iran. Okay, I was there. I had to go in to do some stuff. Uh, to we had to go in and get some of our advisors and troops out, and I was part of that. And let me tell you, it was very well organized on the other side. The biggest mistake we ever made was they had an elected government in place to take over for the Shah, you know, and he was already in place, but our the we didn't support him, and we lost our best Arab ally that we had.
Yeah.
Iran, prior to 1978, 79, was a very democratic. Yeah, it was run by the Shah, but he was trying to keep these leftist militants that had come in,
Mm-hmm.
and or these ultra right conservatives come
Yeah.
in and destroy the country. And but yeah. Uh, Anyways, I digress. So I'll let you take it over for a little bit, because my mind, when it comes to Iran in the Middle East, my mind goes everywhere on it, because
Yeah.
but I think uh, uh, Steve was saying, Trump's put the NATO on notice because they haven't been they've not been doing their part.
Yeah, they haven't stepped up to the plate and done their part,
and we haven't been doing right by Israel in a while either. As far as I'm concerned, we need to give them our full support.
Yeah. And that's true. And that, to me, with the Democrats all having a big cow over this whole thing, it just shows you where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And now that they've invoked the War Powers Act on Trump, and I'm hearing a lot of people saying, well, wait a minute, you're encroaching on the equal powers of the different branches, because he's the executive branch and he's the commander in chief. He's doing what he's doing to protect the United States and the citizens.
Right.
And
right.
Carlos says,
children of politicians work for. I don't know that there's a direct correlation of children working for oil companies.
The children of politicians.
Of politicians. That's yeah, the UN as well. Yeah, we put them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, no, I don't know that I know one politician whose son has been involved with some of that, and he's kind of catching crap about it right now, and why they've impeached Donald Trump because he called him on it, and but I'm not going to mention any names, Joseph Biden. But anyways, love my drones as rebel scum. Yeah.
This War Powers Act is something they made up, right? Well, they're trying to restrain Trump from doing what he's supposed to do, is to protect the country.
Right.
And I think the War Powers Act was mainly that started out of the Nixon
administration. Yeah. And I can't remember the full
slip since then. The secret bombings and
right. Yeah.
In Cambodia and
right.
Laos.
Cambodia and Laos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they created that back in the 70s because of the situation that was going on. Mm-hmm. And now the War Powers Act that was that limiting the power of the president back in the 70s?
I think it limits on how much money can be spent on the war. They just say, all right, go ahead and go do your whatever you want over there, but you're limited on how much money you could spend on. So,
well,
because that's what Congress does. They're responsible
for the spending. Yeah.
Government.
Right. Well, and yeah, Mel, in a way they did make it up. They passed a resolution and they passed it and created it. But the thing that happened was it was never challenged constitutionally. And had they challenged it, I think the War Powers Act would be thrown out anyways. Now they're trying to invoke it again. Mm-hmm. But I think this time, when they did that, Nixon was already in enough trouble. Yeah. He didn't have time to take on the War Powers Act at that moment because he was trying to save his job and keep from going to jail, know. And I don't speak badly of Nixon too often, but he is kinfolk, by the way. Yeah. distant, but nonetheless, yeah. Wouldn't you know it? The only president of the United States that I'm related to, and he's the crooked one, just my luck.
Mhm.
But he's following a family tradition. Halliburton, Marathon Oil. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, because you had. I see where Carlos is coming from on that. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's supposed to limit the president's ability to commit to war. Thank you, Rodney. But I think it's a non-binding resolution, and even if they invoke it, they can't do anything about it. And because it's never been challenged by the Supreme Court.
Right. Now, Carlos mentions President Bush went to war with no problem. Well,
we had 9/11.
Yeah, that was the big
That was
where
yeah.
Trump, the Democrats are trying to use this as another issue to kind of distract from impeachment because they're still holding back impeachment.
I understand she is supposed to be releasing it Monday. She's supposed to be walking it over there Monday.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. There was a young, well, he wasn't young, but there was a Republican congressman who sent a tweet to her personally and did a video about it. And he actually had worked as a intern
Right.
for a senator. So he filmed himself walking from the House to the Senate just in case she didn't know how to get there. He showed her how.
Yeah.
And then he tweeted to her personally. He says, Miss Pelosi, in case you, Miss Speaker, in case you don't remember the way. Yeah. This is how. Yeah. Here it is. Yeah.
Go that way.
Yeah. I shared that a couple of times.
It's at the other end of the Capitol.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where, I'm looking at what Greg says. In Australia, the prime minister needs to go to the governor general before activating the military reserves or even to even fight bushfires. In some ways, the president, of course, we don't have a governor general or a queen. Our president is the prime minister, and he's the governor general, and he's the king. It's all one job. But the one thing is our president is the commander in chief of the military.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to declare war on another country, it has to go before the before the Congress.
Yep.
But to commit troops to support allies or to defend our position, see, that's where the War Powers Act has never been challenged. Does he have the right as commander-in-chief to activate the military for a purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it's set up that it's not supposed to be more than 90 days, but we've been fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan for coming up on 20 years.
Well, yeah, I think we went into Afghanistan in 2003.
In 2003?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to the 20-year mark, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it. Was it 2003? I thought it was earlier than that. I thought we went in not too long after we figured out who did it. Who didn't? Because
we had to. Well, there were a lot of logistical stuff that we had to take.
Yeah, we had to set up our jump-off points.
And the security of the United States, because at the time we had two competing investigative.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
And the CIA. They couldn't talk to each other.
Right.
We had to take care of that.
We had to take care of that and get that.
Homeland Security.
Oh yeah. Let's make another department that does absolutely nothing worthwhile. As if we don't have enough. Let's create some more jobs for our children and grandchildren to pay for. Yeah, but
Now we got lava eruption at Taal.
It's okay,
Boy, that's getting,
man. I hope your family's going to be okay,
yeah.
Greg. So, yeah, this is a. I agree with Steve. It's, in my understanding was under his authority as commander in chief, he can enact the military for things that are for the protection of uh,
United
our
States
allies
and
or
our
allies.
interests over there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the War Powers Act that was created in what was it 72, 73, or was it 71? I can't remember when
Oh,
they
the War
created it.
Powers Act?
Yeah, when did they create that? My mind's
That was almost before Nixon resigned.
okay. So it was 74. Yeah, 70, 73, 74. That's what I was thinking. Uh, 9/11 was an alien attack by Martians. You heard that on CNN. You know that's probably the closest they'll ever get to reporting true news if they put that up. You know.
Mhm.
I mean, this War Powers Act is a contentious thing. You know,
Yeah.
the real, and I think this is the president that will challenge it. If it comes up, it comes down to it, he'll take it to the Supreme Court,
Mhm.
and they'll make, because no decision was ever made. Challenge, it was thrown in there just before Nixon resigned, and that's what I was thinking. Thank you for telling me that. And he was too busy trying to keep his job. He didn't have time to deal with that. And then Gerald Ford came in, and
Well,
he was
also the Vietnam War was winding down because
right, right.
the
We were
peace uh, conference was going at the time, and I think it was after the fact that we got a withdrawal from Vietnam and we ended that war. I think that's when the Democrats decided, okay, to prevent another Vietnam, we're going to put these limits on what the president can do.
uh, hey, Carlos, I put that up there because I wanted that to be seen. But just so you know, uh, you do know Mitch was joking, right? Because that was, I mean, obviously the Martians was a hint, but yeah, uh, I don't think Mitch is a fan of CNN, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, what else did you have on the agenda today that you want to talk
Oh,
about?
yeah. Okay.
Let's get back to your checklist.
Yeah.
Because
What did I play? Oh, yeah. Oh, and then we had the mortar attacks just recently in Iraq.
oh, another one.
Yeah, so now they're lobbing mortars at our bases in Iraq. But luckily, nobody's been killed. I think one person's been injured,
Right.
uh, and that's what I've been hearing. So let me.
Well, you know, my opinion is, and that's doesn't mean much. Uh, I think it's time for us to kind of get out of that area, you know, and I think that's what initially is going to happen. But uh, you know, it's time for us to start pulling back, and because I heard something the other day that we are supporting the Sunni and fighting the Shiite. And I
Right.
always assumed that the my understanding and the ones I knew were Sunni, and they were the less conservative of the bunch. The Shiite were the hardliners. And I'm
Yeah, that's
thinking,
what the Iranians are Shiite.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Hmm.
And somebody said, you know, why? Well, okay, that was it, because that's who we put back in power in uh, because it's the Shiites was the majority in Iraq,
Yeah.
Yeah. And we supported them instead of the Sunni. So yeah, that's right. Because I remember there used to be four groups,
Yeah.
and they've killed off all but the Shiites have killed off all but the Sunni.
Right.
That's the last of the, and they're more uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. They're more they're I'll
They're
think of it
more
later. Yeah.
revelationists. In
No, they're more
one is more
they're
about
less of the do what?
caliphate, and the other is less about the caliphate.
Well, and that's it. The Sunnis, I think, are for the caliphate. See, that's the problem. Both groups have something wrong because ISIS were the Sunnis, you know,
Uh-huh.
and yet the Shiites are the ones who want Sharia law. So
Yeah.
uh, I've always said the best resolution would be to drop 4 or 5 nukes in the middle of that area, and we'd have a large glass factory.
Hmm.
Melt all that sand and turn it in glass. We'd have a never-ending supply of glass.
Hmm.
You know.
Well, here's the problem with that is you have Muslims that stretch from North Africa to
Oh yeah,
Southeast Asia and Central Asia.
yeah,
So that's
yeah. It's one of the.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a really tough nut to crack
yeah,
on
it
that
is.
one. It's going to be
I'm to the point where I'm ready to become an isolationist country again. Let's pull back inside our borders, build some walls, you
yeah.
know, and let them come to us for a change. You know, we'll show them how it's done. But that's my personal opinion. So
So we got that, and well, here we are. It's 2020, and this is election season. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
here in Colorado next month, we're going to have our caucus. Uh, each state has a different way of electing their state officials, or county officials, or congressional officials. Here in Colorado, we have what's called the caucus, where I think now the primaries are open to everybody, to where unaffiliates could vote for in either primary. They could
Yeah,
vote
yeah,
either in Democrat, Republican, or even in the Libertarian Party if they wanted.
right,
But
right.
here we have a caucus where, okay, the Republicans, they have their caucus at, for example, where I live, uh, Jefferson County will have it at, I think, Arvada, no, Pomona High School.
Okay,
And we'll have it for our section of Jefferson County. And that's where we select uh, delegates and alternates to the different assemblies.
right,
We have the county assembly where we uh, get delegates for, well, at caucus we select people to go as delegates or alternates to the county assembly. And the county assembly, that's where a lot of stuff happens, because we're doing state house, state senate, we're doing the county sheriffs, we're doing coroners, uh, oh, uh, uh, county commissioners. I mean, a whole bunch of county assessors, uh, and all those different offices. Uh, it's surprising how much is done on the county level. And then you have your congressional assembly, where
right,
you go to uh, nominate the person to as the candidate for Congress. in your party.
Right.
And then you have the state assembly. And that's where we go, where that's where the big stuff happens. We start nominating people for uh, federal races, and we assign delegates to the presidential convention.
Right. Right.
So I I would like to go as a delegate to wherever they're. Do you know where the convention is going to be held this year? I know
I
it's
have
August.
no clue.
Yeah, I don't even
Yeah,
know if they.
I don't even know if they've decided that yet. I think they were going to wait on that to uh, probably a little closer to because it's just January. I think they decide that like in February or March.
Right. Hmm.
So
Oh, and that's
uh,
where all the caucuses, in each
yeah,
state going to start happening. I mean, we have Super Tuesday. I think
yeah,
Iowa is
yeah.
traditionally the
See,
first one
yeah,
to go.
we have primaries here rather
Yeah,
than
primary.
caucuses,
Yeah.
and ours are closed. If you vote for Republicans, vote for Republicans, and Democrats vote for Democrats, and if independents have anyone running, they vote for the independent. But uh, yeah, we have primaries and they're closed primaries, and I prefer it that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want now. I'm going to tell you guys a secret. Back uh, when Hillary was running against Obama, well, up to that point, the election just before that, we didn't have a lot of Republicans that held office here in the state of Oklahoma. It just
Right.
it was a conservative. It was a Democratic state. So I would. I had to register if I wanted to vote in any primaries. I had to register as a Democrat. So I did, and it just killed me the first time I had to do that. But I stayed a Democrat all the way up to vote for Hillary over Obama. And then right after that, I switched to a Republican, which is what I always voted in the
Yeah.
in the national elections in all the elections. I always voted straight Republican,
Mhm.
but I was a registered Democrat, and so I voted for Hillary to beat Obama, and then I voted for uh, whoever was right. I switched to a Republican ticket, and I've been Republican back ever since.
Mhm.
And I only did that because I guess I was a dino. You
Yeah.
know, I was a Democrat name only because I've never supported anything that they've done,
Mhm.
but in this state, you know, I had to vote for in order to vote in a primary because for first 25 years that I lived here, we didn't have any. All of our congressmen were Democrats.
Right.
We
Mhm.
were a Democratic stronghold, and then I think when Obama ran is when we flipped, and we've been a Republican state ever since.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, even our governor at one time was a convicted felon. He was convicted after he was left office, and because and he lost his war chest. He was a Democrat. He used his campaign finance funds for personal expense,
Yeah.
uh, and
Mhm.
he got convicted of it. And then he had the gall to run again.
Right. Well, Lloyd, if you're registered as a Democrat, you could still vote Republican in the general election.
Oh, I always did. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah, and
always
that's
did.
what
But
I wanted to make everybody aware of that. They probably
yeah,
think,
yeah,
well, you're registered as a Democrat, you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
vote. No, you don't have
Nah, nah.
to.
I never voted Democrat. I only
Right,
did it in the primaries because there was never we didn't have the Republicans didn't have a Republican congressman running in my district. You know,
right.
and
Oh,
I think there's one district now that is Democrat in Oklahoma,
that's
and
Oklahoma City.
no, it's down in the southeast corner.
Wow.
It's area called Little Dixie,
Oh,
and
interesting. Interesting.
One possibility is Dixie Finance on East Side Boulevard.
Really? I didn't ask you that. I don't know.
Alexa, tell us a
Greg,
joke.
if you're listening, would you quit messing with my stuff? I know he's hacked me.
Hey, get up, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah. And of course, then 2 nights ago, she started, making really rude noises.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Did you hear that? Did I tell you that part?
Didn't you mention that on Greg's show the other night?
I think I did. Yeah, because I had to I contacted Greg and tell him about it. It was kind of late, and it's like, yeah, I just every time he turned around, it was just it was. Well, I won't do it because this show deserves better than that. But
Yeah.
it was making a rude noise,
Uh-huh.
and it did about 15, 20 times. Finally, got it to stop. It's like every time Judy had answered it, it did, and do it again. Oh, yes, right. I mentioned it on Rodney's stream too. Yeah, because Rodney was cracking up laughing. Yeah, yesterday morning. Yeah. So, and
So yeah, and I want to let everybody know I've got a birthday coming up on Wednesday, and
okay,
so I'm going to be hitting the big 6-0 this week, having a dinner with my sister on Wednesday.
cool.
And then Saturday, I'm having a party at one of the local watering holes where one of my favorite local bands is playing there. I kind of have a tradition going back 10 years ago where wherever this band is playing, that's where I'll have my birthday party. And a lot of friends will show up and listen to some good music.
Cool.
And have a few adult beverages and celebrate my birthday.
Well, happy birthday to you, Art, and I will make sure I contact you on your birthday. So, if it's a really good party, you could always live stream from your phone.
There you go. And also, if you want to make a donation, send it to my PayPal at COLOKID1960 @gmail.com.
There you go. Yeah. And that's another thing I left as you were mentioning Ranger, update. He's scheduled tomorrow morning to go into surgery. I've made contact with the person who is going to help out for what's not covered by the fundraiser. And, so I'll get with the vet tomorrow and see how they want to work that out. But, and of course I've got, some of it I'm paying for it. Well, 1,000 of it I'll be paying. I got to pay that back, but and I've noticed we've gotten some more, but I want to thank everybody who has either shared or donated to the Rangers Fund. I mean, or reached out in other ways, but yeah, we've had a lot of support from everybody, and
1085, folks. Let's get that closer to 1700.
Oh, it's 1085 now. See, I hadn't checked it recently, and
we'll do it like Pusha Studio saying, "Well, he's only X amount. Yeah. Let's get him going."
Yeah. See, I haven't refreshed that to see what it says.
Come on, folks. Just a little bit more. Let's help him out.
Yeah, there it is. It is. Yeah. Wow. And I want to thank everybody who has donated. It does mean a lot. And
and also we got to help out Jeff Sills.
I was just fixing to say, let's not forget Jeff, because
does anybody have the link to his?
I do. I'm fixing to post it right now.
Good. I'm glad you're fixing it. It's about time you fixed it.
Yeah, there we go. I hadn't brought up because I did want to bring that up. So, because as you guys know, or some of you may not know, but Jeff Sills, who has like 25 or 30 kids,
Yeah.
was made redundant for those people overseas.
Mhm. Adult beverage. That
Yeah.
means alcoholic beverage.
Yeah. And thank you, Love My Drones. Yeah, Ranger will be having his surgery Monday. They'll keep him overnight. I'll go pick him up on Tuesday. So he's a real trooper. Just kind of Judy's really worried about him, and of course he was her service dog. Those of you know that. But anyways, like I said, back to Jeff Sells.
Yeah.
He got made redundant
Yep.
or laid off,
Laid
depending
off.
on what part of the world you're from.
Mhm.
And he's got to
He's
feed
got
his
those
25 or 30 kids he's got to,
things.
and will I give him a stiff? No, I can't give him anything. I would, but I might take a stiff drink, but I've got to drive. So that probably wouldn't be a good idea either. Cause
Yeah, it might counteract with the anesthesia too.
Do what?
It would mess up the anesthesia if you gave
would.
him
Yeah.
a little toddy before he went in.
Yeah, they've already told me that, and I've got to do it. I've got to pull his food tonight.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
No food. And,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, but yeah, and the dog, because when I pull the food, I got to pull it all, so they're all going to be upset because I use a automatic feeder, so or constant feeder, just a big 5-6 gallon.
Oh, okay.
Thing on top, I can fill it from the top and it just automatically. So when they want to eat, and that's people think a dog his size eats a lot, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
He really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
But
yeah, you don't want him to end up like Beans the cat that Ashley has.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's a fat cat.
That is a fat cat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna.
So let's help out Jeff, and he's got all those mouths to feed, and at least the good thing about it is now he can work on that fabric.
Yes, it gives him something to do in his spare time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think he said he was going to get on it now that the kids are going back to school, so he's got plenty of time to work on that, and that'll be neat to see that flying.
Right. Yeah. And I put up Ranger's link first again, and I'm going to put up Jeff's, because really at the end of it, Jeff is the most important because he's got kids to feed. So I hope he got a good severance package or something, because my understanding is he worked for HP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it. You're correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I said this earlier, but it's 12.11 miles is how far Greg's family is from the volcano. He said 19.5 kilometers is 12.11 miles. So that's pretty close as volcanoes go,
Yeah.
Oh, so did we cover your list today?
I believe we did. Let's see. Mortar attack. Democrats okay. And we talked about the general. Shot down the airliner. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was moved to Avia. They purchased the contract from HP. Okay. All right.
Oh, he moved to Avaya. Okay.
Avaya.
All right.
Yeah. Well, if he's been doing that kind of work for that many for a while, they'll be able to.
He'll be able to bounce back.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he lives in Texas. Their unemployment is really low. And, their cost of living is much better than it is here in Colorado. Oh, and this leads me into our legislative session just started last Wednesday,
Okay.
and they're talking about more gun laws and more junk added on to health care, more restrictions on oil and gas and fracking. So they're really going to screw this state this time. And
Yeah. And, once they go down that, I use the term slippery slope as I look behind you and see that mountain that they're going to be sliding down. Yeah, exactly.
mhm.
Yeah. Where's that? Do you know what angle that's shot from?
It looks like it's from City Park.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking towards downtown.
Right.
hmm
Yeah. Because on the other side, isn't it on the other side closer to the mountains is where Westminster is?
Well, Westminster is north and a little, and quite a bit west of Denver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember as a kid standing out there, flood of 65. I remember standing there on my front porch and watching that rain come down, and it was just way it was coming down over the Capitol. You couldn't even see the Capitol any other time you could, but when that flood of 65, we watched it kind of moving towards us because it, Cherry Creek and the Platte River and all of that just overflowed, and it literally split Denver in half.
Yeah, that's
Took out all those bridges across the Platte,
Yeah. hmm Yep.
Yeah.
All those bridges, they acted like dams where all the debris just stacked up.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
oh boy.
And I know it. There was years. Some of that they never. I assume they finally, got it cleaned up. But it was it seemed for years they didn't have that cleaned up.
No. Well, and that was before Chatfield Reservoir was built. And,
Yeah.
Now that's more for flood control.
Right.
And now they're expanding the dam, so they're holding back more water, and that's more water for the city of Denver.
Yeah, because where we lived out in Westminster, I remember I had a northwest bedroom. So I remember getting up. It's the coldest room in the house, of course. But I remember getting up, looking out the back window, which was the westward facing window, and seeing the Rocky Mountains every day.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's like, God, same boring sight. But then I look at mountains like this shot that you've got, and it's like, man, I had a beautiful vantage point,
Yeah, you did. You sure did.
And it was just like the only problem was sundown. Oh, in the summertime, it was hot in that room.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big giant swamp cooler that was on wheels.
Oh boy.
Dad would bring it up from the basement, set it into the living room, dump some water in it, turn that thing on, and that's what we had. We opened up the windows and
oh boy.
Yeah, we didn't have air conditioning, so when it hit 90 degrees, it was hot.
Okay, Mike B, aka the Drone Ranger, just showed up. He says he's sorry, but he's been working on cars.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, where I live, I'm in what's called the garden level apartment, which is
right
4 feet below ground. And I'm also on the northwest side, so it doesn't get so darn hot here. Where all my neighbors on the east and southeast side of the building, they all have air conditioners. I don't need an air conditioner.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't get hot enough to make it uncomfortable here. Yeah, it gets warm, but it's not overbearing. Yeah.
Well, that was it growing up too. I mean, it was only in the evenings that it got hot, and Greg brought up volcanoes and climate change. Yeah, I'm sure it's the climate change that caused that volcano to blow up. Let's blame it on climate. Actually, those volcanoes going off create a bit of a climate change. for areas
Yes.
because, they cloud the skies. I mean, remember Mount St. Helen? I
Yep.
think a lot of our weather changed after Mount St. Helen blew up,
Hmm.
that affected all over the United States, for a while because it puts that ash up there. It's, it's going to layer the sun. It's going to create either cold or hot. Oh, not layer the sun, layer the atmosphere
Yeah.
and block the sun. There we go.
Right.
I was trying to shorten it a
Boy,
little
that'd
bit.
be a hell of a
Layer the sun. Yeah.
layer the sun.
Yeah. Layer the sunlight. It filter the sunlight. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. So we got volcanoes, and just a couple of days ago they had another earthquake down on Mindanao, a big earthquake, about 6.2, and so that's you got to remember the Philippines is part of that rim of fire. The Pacific rim of fire, Japan, and you got parts of Indonesia and Jakarta, and I mean, look, Hawaii's got active volcanoes. You got Mount St. Helens, even Mount Lassen in California is dormant, but it's not extinct. And the last time that blew was in 1912, I believe.
Yeah, it's time for some of these to start blowing, because it's just,
Yep. And then you have, in the Andes, all along the Andes,
Right,
a lot of volcanoes there. So
yeah.
And Carlos makes a good point. CO2 causes trees to grow faster. That's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the CO2 that we spew pales in comparison to what comes out of the volcano or wildfires. And he's right. I Love My Drones is, yeah.
Mhm.
If so many trees weren't cut down, the CO2 would not be a concern. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
There's a balancing act between having enough trees to convert CO2 to oxygen
Mhm.
and is it CO2 or CO?
I think it's CO, carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide. Yeah. The trees convert carbon monoxide to oxygen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And because CO2, isn't that what's in my soda pop?
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So,
And if you,
in other words, the CO2 makes us belch, and the CO1 makes us choke.
yeah. So now this is the science portion of the show.
Yeah, trees well, that was one of those subjects I didn't pay attention to. I slept through. Trees convert CO2. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
And if you look at the geologic history, back when the dinosaurs were around, you
want
to know why the dinosaurs and all the bugs were so big back then. Well, the oxygen level was much higher then than it is today. And then one day, pow, an asteroid hit the world and spewed a lot of dust and caused global cooling, and it caused another ice age, which killed off the dinosaurs, and what was left, they were able to, survive the survival of the fittest, and they took over the planet.
Okay. Yeah. I was watching this conversation. Actually, Carlos was having the conversation with himself for a little bit because he says CO2 causes trees to grow faster, and then Rodney puts up CO2 is carbon dioxide. Yeah, that I knew. And then Carlos says, "Well, that's what comes from comes from car exhaust." And he said, "No, that's actually monoxide," which is where I was going in the first place. One chokes you, the other one makes you belch.
Mhm.
You know, because carbon dioxide is what is in carbonated water.
Mhm.
So, which one is it that is the layer that protects us from, or,
Ozone?
yeah, I mean, okay. Carbon monoxide is the pollutant, right?
Well, they say it's a pollutant, but that's what the plants need to convert that into.
Did you see what Carlos just wrote? Oh, that was just wrong. I'm sorry, Mitch. I didn't mean to laugh. Carlos, that was just mean.
All right, I think we've pretty
Yeah.
much exhausted everything here.
We've
So,
lost all semblance of decorum too by now.
so I want to thank everybody for coming to the show, and you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody. God bless America and the great state of Colorado. See you.
And Oklahoma. And you guys take care. Remember the people in the Philippines in your prayers, you know. And I'll see you guys in a few hours on Mel's show.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.